Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with our Friday review, our closing episode of the week before, of course, we get to our weekend house calls every Saturday and Sunday, where we answer all of your questions that have come in over the past few weeks. And as always, on these Friday reviews, I love to be able to bring you what I call a recap show of the week, but also share with you two research studies that I think are super important. These ones this week are going to be about body transformation and how real cardio isn't even necessary to help with a lot of body transformation. So I can't wait to share that with you. I'll also be sharing with you a childhood diet-based tip that's really important for as children begin to grow, they become adults. Some of these habits stick with them. We'll go over that. We'll go over our herb of the week. So if you've never heard about the Ayurvedic herb Guggul, you'll want to stay tuned. It's different than the Guggul, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in just a moment. What I'm going to start to do also, instead of book reviews, I may actually do some podcast reviews as well. And today is our very first podcast review. So check that out. It's someone else, obviously, in the industry talking about health that I want to be able to give a shout out because, again, I believe in abundance. I believe that in this industry, we really need to be able to share tips from all people in this industry, not just from one individual. And then we'll go through our podcast recap of the week. We'll get there in just a moment. So a lot to talk about. I always start, though, with our updates from the week. So this show is being recorded right before our IHP World event live. I couldn't be, again, more excited for this coming up. I'm literally recording this about 2 days out. And what's happening in Florida is we have invited 200 IHPs from around the world. We have almost 5,000 practitioners now. And it's our very first time, actually, as a large group to gather, to get together, to share ideas, to explore what's coming for the next year, to help them as coaches, but also to be able to really join as a community, to be able to talk and be there and exchange energy and ideas in person. There's just nothing that can beat that. I mean, that's why I love being able to speak on stage to people all over, but I also love attending conferences. And so this one, I get to put it on. I get to invite 200 people in, and it's going to be an amazing event. So I couldn't be more excited. I'm sure I'll be giving the updates next Friday on our Friday review as to how it went, but I can't wait. I really can't. And I'm inviting a lot of our executive team from Equal Life in too. Plus, we'll have a lot of our health coaches there. We're just going to have a lot of people, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be busy. It's going to be crazy. I don't know that there'll be a lot of sleep going on, but it'll be worth it for sure. So I'm sure this has been my catch up right before that. So that's that. Again, Integrative Health Practitioner Institute is one of those things that we just love to do, trying to help others to basically learn how to heal and then go on to heal others and put a health coach in every home. That's what it's all about. So if you've never heard about IHP, well, definitely check it out. It's called integrativehealthpractitioner.org, and you can find out the details there. All right. What is going on over at Equal Life this week? Well, I'm glad you asked. We are preparing for the holidays. Believe it or not, Halloween is just a couple of days away. I'm excited for Halloween because with two young daughters who love to dress up, I will be donning a costume for sure. We'll be going out. We'll be trick-or-treating. If you've heard my previous podcast episodes, what we do is not, of course, what everyone chooses to do, and I get that. But my daughters get to choose a couple things that they enjoy from hours of trick-or-treating, and then we tend to give out a lot of that candy. We tend to trade it in for healthier treats inside of my family so that it does not lead to the cold and flu season that most people are used to, taking that Halloween bag and making it last for the next 30 days or so, which is just full of hydrogenated oils, processed sugars, inflammatory fats, and much more. So Anyway, enjoy Halloween. We enjoy Halloween very, very much so. But again, we just try not to make Halloween last for the next 30 days or so. But for those people who do like to enjoy the occasional gluten and wheat and dairy-based product, especially with Thanksgiving coming up and the holidays coming up as well, we have a product that we're giving away this week over at Equilife. You can find it at stephencabral.com/shop. That'll just direct you over to Equilife, and it is our free gluten and dairy support enzyme. So this enzyme, all you do is take 1, 2, or 3, depending on how much gluten and dairy you're having, and it will help to break down that food so you won't have the same gas or bloating or brain fog that you may get after eating those foods. So again, head on over to stephencabral.com/shop. That will have all of the details. And again, I'm sure I had it on the beginning of the show, end of the show, for what the gluten and dairy digest is all about, or the gluten and dairy support is all about. All right. Recap for the week on the Cabral concept on Monday's show is episode 2453. All podcasts can be found at stephencabral.com/podcast. It was keep these 2 commitments for life. That was a powerful show for something that I really believe in, because it cuts down through all the complexity of life and just say, listen, if you only do 2 things, do this. This is what's going to help you live a really fulfilling life. That was episode 2453. Tuesday's show was the top 10 anti-inflammatory foods. This was a follow-up to the week before where we went over the 2 most inflammatory foods. Make sure you don't miss that. Wednesday's show was sweeteners that do and don't break your fast. And then yesterday's show was why your testosterone may be too low. And this is both men and women, and I share with you the symptoms of low T. All right. So let's now move on to our herb of the week. Love being able to teach you each and every week our herb of the week. It will be ending soon over the next couple of weeks, but what we wanted to do is essentially for an entire year, every single Friday, bring you an herb of the week. Now, a couple of years back, we went through a vitamin and mineral of the week. So every week, we taught you about a certain B vitamin or vitamin A or vitamin D and what all these things did. So if you ever want to learn more about any of these, just say, hey, which show was it on vitamin D or vitamin B1 or vitamin B9, whatever it might be. And you can always ask those questions at cabralsupportgroup.com. They're going to be there. They're going to be able to help you answer those questions and direct you to the right podcast, because you can just search for them yourself at stephencabral.com/podcast, but maybe you can't find it. That's okay. We're here to help. Just let us know. All right. Herb of the week this week is Guggul. It is an Ayurvedic herb that's been used for thousands of years. Technically, it's a resin from even the Boswellia family. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Been used again for thousands and thousands of years. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's different names for it. Why don't I start there? Because maybe you have heard of it before. It's called Guggul and Guggul lipid in Ayurvedic medicine. It's actually from a variety of plants in India. And some of those that I want to share with you are the Boswellia serrata family, the Boswellia sacra family, and that's about it. Those are the ones that we typically are using. And what is it good for? Well, there's a lot of skin conditions that it can be used for. So acne, skin rashes, psoriasis, breakouts, etc. However, what we predominantly use it for is actually for healthy weight loss, healthy levels of thyroid, and healthy levels of cholesterol. And they are really, what I like to do is I like to bring things together. So when we're talking about it, all of those are metabolic functions. So Guggul lipid is a very powerful antioxidant, and it improves thyroid function. If you improve thyroid function, what else do you improve? Well, cholesterol. Oftentimes people with low functioning thyroid, like a TSH of 3 or more, have higher levels of cholesterol. And so they might try all these different things for their cholesterol, but yet it's their thyroid that's the issue. Or they might be struggling to lose weight or keep the weight off, and it could be their thyroid that's not what's best. So again, you can always run that thyroid test, which looks at cortisol and other hormones, at stephencabral.com/hormones-test. But with Guggul lipid, we use that as an extract because it has been clinically proven to help with low thyroid. Now, here's just a couple of I was going to say anecdotes, but it's not anecdotes. A couple of clinical research studies that have actually proven why this works. Now, keep in mind, Ayurvedic medicine has been using this for thousands of years. They've known it's worked for thousands of years. That's why if there isn't yet the science to catch up with what we're doing here in natural health, I'm not always worried if, and hopefully you read my email about 2 weeks ago that went through, it has to, Mike, if I'm going to recommend something to you, it has to pass 3 different tests. And the first one, has it been used for thousands of years? Is it natural from nature? And if so, and it has 6,000 years of Ayurvedic weight behind it, I'm willing to go with it. So anyway, with this, and again, now we have the actual clinical science on Guggul lipid that started over the past 2 decades to show that it works. How does it work? Well, now we know that the Guggul extract actually, and Guggul, by the way, is Guggul, not Google as in like the search. So it actually increases iodine uptake. So good for those people with a higher TSH. And again, I'm not here to give you medical advice, medical diagnosis, medical cures, or medical treatments. But if you need to improve your iodine uptake, Guggul helps with that. It also helps with the activity of the enzymes that are actually used by the thyroid gland in order to improve function. And this research study showed that using Guggul significantly, not in a little bit, clinically significantly improved signs and symptoms associated with hypothyroidism, so low thyroid, such as weakness, fatigue, and muscle aches. So again, I can feel very comfortable sharing this with you for overall metabolism. And that includes healthy levels of cholesterol, healthy levels of thyroid, and healthy levels of weight and weight loss. All right. So I wanted to share that with you. Again, something that we've been using a long time. It's inside of our daily thyroid support product. I don't know. You can just find that at StephenCabral.com/shop. We can't link it up, but of course, you can use any of your other favorite products as well. Just want to let you know that is an herb used for thousands of years and clinically proven to help as well. All right, that is that. Let's move on to our book review of the week, which is actually going to be a podcast review of the week. So a lot of people ask me, hey, what podcast do you listen to? What podcast do you like? I like a lot of different podcasts. I love podcasts, love being able to watch the videos, sometimes don't watch the videos, sometimes just listen to it in the background. And one of those podcasts is the Lex Fridman podcast. Some of you may already know Lex Fridman. He is a computer software engineer, PhD, has taught at MIT, works in robotics, loves AI, and I just love his passion for the field. I am not in robotics. I have never studied computer programming, and I am an amateur in terms of AI, but I do very much enjoy studying AI because I know it's the future of everything that I do as well. And I'll talk about that more in the future. But he had a guest on named Michael Levin. Michael Levin works at Tufts University, literally a mile down the street from where I grew up in Medford, Massachusetts. And he is a biologist. He's a doctor. And he was on Lex's podcast, episode number 325. I'm going to link everything up for you today. So if you heard something in the show like research or lab tests, I can't link up nutritional supplements, but everything else I can link up. And all of those will be at StephenCabral.com/2457. That's StephenCabral.com/2457. And it takes a lot for me to be blown away by a podcast or a book nowadays. It's not to say like, oh, I know all this and all. It's not. But I'm at the point in my life where I'm getting a little older. I've read 3,000 plus books. I've been to so many different lectures and certifications and seminars and internships. I read every single day. I read research every single day. I take my craft and my career and your health very, very seriously. And so usually, I continue to read everybody's work, so I'm always a student. And what I want to share, though, is that I don't read a lot of new things that are happening, that are original. And when I listened to this podcast, and it was literally by chance, I listened to a clip and then I listened to another clip and then another clip. I'm like, oh, this is really good. And so I listened to the whole thing. And it was brilliant. It was on the track that I think that we need to be headed. And Michael Levin, just keeps a very open mind, and it's very refreshing. And so when he was talking about the future of essentially humans and how we really get over the hump, because here's the thing, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant for a moment. I don't believe all these biohackers and people out there saying that they're going to live to 150 years or 180 years by doing this, this, and this. It's just not going to happen. And I don't mean to be like, a downer. I don't mean that at all. It's just not going to happen the way that they think it's going to happen. Like, even Dr. David Sinclair, who I think is amazing and brilliant, and again, works literally a mile down the street, in Boston, Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's not going to happen the way that people think it's going to happen in terms of like a nutrient or extract. I just don't know that it's going to work that way, but I'm open to it. Of course, I'm open to it. Now, all of the nutrients and extracts that I talk about, that David Sinclair talks about, that Andrew Huberman, that other people talk about, that could probably get us to 100 to maybe 120. But beyond that, beyond natural human lifespan, which seems to be 120 years, where there's just literally a falling off of a cliff at that time, I think it's going to be regenerative medicine. That is what I think. Meaning, like, because people's bodies just wear out. Their organs wear out. Like, that's what happens. So all of the nutrients that we're talking about and the sauna and the walking and all those things, the Mediterranean diet, that's what helps you get to the 100 to 120. But you still wear out. I'm going to do a whole show on this. So I'm just going to talk about this and go on a rant on another time. So, because this is a Friday review, not meant to be, I don't want to scare anybody who's tuning in for the first time. But the way that we live longer and longer with a better quality of life, meaning like not, because again, like, with all due respect, when people get to 110 years old, 100 years old, they're not looking like they were 50 years old. Like, let's be honest, right? But a new form of medicine that can regenerate the organs, regenerate the body, is a game changer. Not saying they have it all figured out, but Michael Levin is helping to lead the charge. Anyway, again, when I hear something new, and I like to share that. I like to be able to give a shout out. Lex Friedman's doing amazing work. He's probably like the #1 podcast I would love to be on. Of course, I've never reached out to him. I've never even talked to him. But if you haven't Lex, I would love to have a conversation on how lab testing, at-home lab testing, and where it's going in terms of AI is going to get there. Anyway, I think both of those gentlemen keep a very open mind, and they don't believe any one person has the answer, and that we can all learn from each other. So anyway, big fan, and I will link up that podcast at stephencabral.com/2457. All right, research in the news. We've got 2 studies for you. The first one, which I found super interesting as well. I know that where did I capture it? There it is. It's out of the Journal of Nutrition. I mean, one of the biggest journals out there. And this was entitled "Moderate Walking Enhances the Effects of an Energy-Restricted Diet on Fat Mass Loss and Serum Insulin in Overweight and Obese Adults in a 12-week randomized control study." So, great study, 12 weeks, long enough for a little bit of information, right? Like, no doubt about it. And they had multiple groups. I'm reading it right here. I don't need to go through all of this with you, but they broke it down per age. They did a really good job. I mean, they did a good job of this study, and they kept everything really standard amongst the groups. And that means like they have a solid basis for, does this work? Now, here's what they found. I'm going to cut right to the chase. At the end of the 12 weeks, they both followed a diet plan that was essentially reduced calories. That was it. I mean, that's what they did. They did a reduced calorie diet. So everybody lost weight. Okay, that was kind of the goal. But one other group said, the only other thing that you're going to do is walk 20 minutes a day. That's it. Extra 20 minutes a day. That's all. That group lost an extra 3.5 pounds. I mean, that's amazing. 20 minutes. Like, literally, that's taking your dog for a longer walk. It's an extra 20 minutes a day. And why did I bring this up to you? The reason is this. We get overwhelmed with everything that we think that we should do, when honestly, if we haven't at least started with a good quality nutrition plan and walking, that's the start. I teach this inside of IHP. I teach it everywhere. It's free in the podcast. It's a graduated exercise program. You start with walking. Do you need to do a boot camp? Not if you don't walk for 8 to 10,000 steps a day or 7 to 10,000 steps a day. First of all, the walking 7 to 10,000 steps a day, you do that for the rest of your life. Like I was talking about those 110-year-old people, they can still do 7 to 10,000 steps per day. They probably wouldn't get to that, honestly, for the most part. So like that's the thing. That will increase lifespan almost more than anything. So like let's do that. Then you can worry about the cardio and the body weight exercises, then the high intensity interval training, the sprint interval training. They're all great. I'm not saying they're not, but let's start here. And it actually works. And it's simpler than you may imagine. It really is. All right. So think about that. Let it soak in. Just again, 20 minutes. I always say after dinner if you can. Like for the most part, we're home at dinner. Take the whole family on a walk. Just everybody get out and walk. It's good for everybody of every age. It will help you to digest the meal. You'll get better sleep at night. Glucose levels won't spike as much. That's called postprandial glucose. So again, really important that we look at this. And again, I could go on and on about this as well. All right. Let me bring you one more study, though. This one is out of where? The University of California, Riverside. It was published in the Journal of Experimental Biology. And I'm going to read it verbatim. It says, eating too much fat and sugar when young can change the gut microbiome throughout life, even if healthful eating habits are adopted later. A study of, let's see here, mice fed the equivalent of a Western diet high in fat and sugar found that an early life Western diet had long-lasting negative effects on the balance of gut bacteria, even when the mice were fed a healthful diet as they aged, and even when the mice exercised. So again, this doesn't mean that you can't change your life and your health as an adult. What it does mean is that we cannot begin or continue to carry on the bad habits that many of us had as a child with our children as well and say, oh, well, those are kids' food, so that's okay for them to eat. And they're supposed to eat that as a kid. High fat, processed, meaning like we're talking about hydrogenated oils, bad fats for us, processed food and sugar. That's what we want to avoid. I've talked about that last week on the inflammatory foods, and it's not going to change. Like that is it. Those are things that we need to avoid. And it can hurt our gut microbiome. Now, again, we can rebalance that with things like the CBO protocol, et cetera, but still, you need to work on these things, and they're so important. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's a mouse-based study. You have to understand, these mice are literally bred so that they're super close in human DNA and with gut microbiome. Like they can give these mice many human-based characteristics, and you don't want to study these things on children, right? You want to be able to do this in a lab and be able to then extract that data and then extrapolate and actually use it with adults as well. So wanted to share that with you. I don't think that we can go wrong, right, in the reverse direction. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Friday Review. A little bit more rant focused, but hopefully it was okay. Hopefully it was enjoyable, and hopefully you have an amazing start to your weekend. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.